Welcome back to another episode. I thought I had everything planned. Everything was perfect. Perfect. And then I left the car, walked out here, and forgot the external microphone to plug in. So the audio may not be the greatest. It may be a bit difficult to hear over the crashing water behind me. However, hopefully you can hear me. If you can, fantastic. Here's what this video is going to be about. So, due to the Pentax K-3 Monochrome camera that's just been announced and released, I started thinking, if I were to actually acquire one, which I have not, too much money, can't afford it, but if I had the means to actually be able to acquire one, and I used it for my regular photography that I showcase here on my YouTube channel, how would that be, like, how would the images actually compare to the full color images? So, for some things, there's just one way to find out. So, I brought out the Canon, no, just kidding, not a Canon. I brought out the Pentax K3 Mark III with the 150-450 and the 1.4x teleconverter. Came out to my usual area to get some bird shots with my custom image black and white mode that I've set up, which I will show on screen what exactly the settings are. And I'm just going to compare the images I capture with the color DNGs and the straight out of camera black and white JPEGs. And before I lose some of you, just want to make a mention of this. I was offered a monochrome converted Pentax K3 to test and compare versus shooting color and then processing it as black and white, or using internal custom image black and white monochrome on the K3 Mark III and comparing that directly with an actual dedicated monochrome camera. So I have been offered to borrow one for a couple of weeks. Is that something you guys would like to see? Let me know in the comments below. Or is this just going to be a small project just for myself to give back to whoever would be interested in the Pentax community? I'm just curious as to how many of you would actually like to see that and are curious about what really is the difference. What's the difference? How's it going? Not bad. Nope, I am not going under there. Snake my way through here. There we go. All right. Openness, much better. All right. It's not a bad day out today. Looks like I am not welcome. Probably just mad that I don't have any bread to give it, which I would never do. Would never do that. Definitely the wrong lens to shoot this kind of stuff. Definitely the wrong setup. Well, I'm just going to head over to clearing, which is a bit further up here, and from there I'm going to, there won't be anywhere to actually put this to kind of keep me in the frame, so I'm just going to take some shots and then we'll do an overview after I'm done taking the shots. It's really soft sand. It's actually pretty warm, considering that yesterday was pretty much on the chilly side. There was some freezing rain and little tad bit of snow that came down yesterday, and now it's like super warm. I honestly didn't even have to wear this jacket, but oh well, it is what it is. It's hot, man. It's getting hot. It's getting hot. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual comparison images here. Just to show, black and white doesn't always work, depending on certain color situations and things that you're trying to illustrate within your imagery, for lack of a better term. You know, just subtle color hue shifts and things like that. So this one actually doesn't work out too bad. This one's actually decent, because there isn't a major color variation on the bird. The bird's black. It's got just a slight yellow stripe along here. On the other side, it doesn't really make much of a difference. There aren't a gazillion different colors. This is not the focal point that you're trying to depict. So that one works out fine. For the next one, here you start to see an issue. The iridescent colors of this grackle do not show up whatsoever in the black and white. You really wouldn't be able to tell. It just looks shiny, but you can't see the varying. You can see the hues, but you have no idea what colors those hues actually are. Purple, blue, you know, slight aqua. That's missing. However, the image is still good for a high contrast black and white style image, but you are missing these little subtle things that really make this bird stand out, right? This one, the cardinal's not really popping in the image as it does in full color, right? So this kind of goes to show that black and white has its places, but it is not suitable for everything. So with the K-3 Monochrome camera, the issue really is it's a very specific style that you would be shooting. And when you are shooting, you would have to keep the black and white element in mind, because obviously when you're looking through the viewfinder, it's going to be in full color, right? So you have to kind of shift how you're going about shooting things. You know, you'd be looking at the light in a different way, because not all things translate from strictly color over to black and white as efficiently as you may think. This is not, you know, it's not a matter of just shooting the image in color with no regard as to the conversion to black and white. But if you're using a monochrome specific camera, you do have to shift your thought process in regards to how you're strictly going to go about shooting, because it will be coming out in a full monochrome tone, right? This Canada Goose here, this works perfectly because it's basically just brown, grayish hues, black, white. So it actually does play perfectly to the monochrome style. You know, but when you have a lot of varying different colors and things like that, monochrome may not be the absolute best way to go about capturing that. So it's a niche camera, it's a niche style, it's very, it's just different. You know, so here you can see that there is there are other different colors here. You know, you've got the red, the yellow. This would be the red, this would be the yellow. This actually, it's okay, but
what makes the bird is this bright pop of color, right? And that is kind of missing in a matter of speaking from here. So it does change the whole feel of the image, right, when you are shooting strictly in monochrome. Now, would I do this again? It depends. It really depends. It depends on the time of day, the lighting, and it would also depend on the bird itself. If I was going to be doing this strictly for birding, which I would not suggest doing strictly monochrome for every single bird. Some birds work better than others, as other subjects may work better than others in regards to monochrome photography, black and white versus color. With that said, for street photography, architecture, fine art, prints, things like that, yes, monochrome, if you can take the time to really dial in the lighting and find the perfect subjects. Like this one works perfectly. You can still see all the detail and everything. You're not really missing much from the lack of the brown hue here, right? You can still see the shades along the wingtip. So this image does work, and it works very, very well. It's got the high contrast feel, but it's when you have a bunch of reflective light and a lot of color hue shifting, purples, greens, blues, things like that, it is difficult to pull out in a strictly monochrome fashion without losing some of that pop, right? This was just a helicopter, search and rescue helicopter flying along. So again, this works perfectly fine. This is a great image. It converted very, very well. It is a very, very well depicted high contrast situation that does play to the strengths of black and white. But at the same time, like I said, you really have to sit there and think about the image that you're trying to capture and if it works in monochrome. Especially if you're using a monochrome dedicated camera. This one actually works to a certain extent, only because of the fact that there are a lot of high contrast areas with this wood duck. However, if you're shooting strictly monochrome and you're trying to capture, these little hues and things like that, it's very difficult. And the other thing with a dedicated monochrome camera is also the highlights. It's a lot more sensitive to light because it is de-bayered. It doesn't have the color filter, which would reduce some of the light, so it is much more sensitive to highlights. So it's a totally different experience from what I understand, just looking at what other people have mentioned in regards to using monochrome dedicated cameras. Some images do work better than others, like this one here, even though neither one of these ducks is fully in the frame, but this converts over to monochrome style very, very well. It's just a nice simple water background. There's no distractions. You've got slight reflection, and I actually find that the monochrome on this one actually works better than the color, at least in my opinion. And this as well, this works very, very, very well. You've got a lot of detail, and it's more the browns. I find the browns, grays, blacks, and whites really play to the strengths of monochrome, period, versus having high intensity color, as you can see here, right? It's losing that whole wow in your face pop, right? So just something to think about when you are out shooting, and especially if you are interested in the monochrome experience versus color. And as you can see here, color versus converting to black and white. One thing you always must keep in mind is that not every single image translates to monochrome very well, if at all. And that's it for this video. If you like the video, leave a like. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. Always helps out. If you want to support the channel, that info's down there too. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. That's it. You'll see me in my next video. I'm out.